අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Saturday the 29th of July 2023. French President Emmanuel Macron becomes the first French president to visit the island nation. Reaffirms France's commitment to support Sri Lanka's economic recovery. Friends in need. Japanese Foreign Minister pledges support to restructure Sri Lanka's debt.
I stressed the importance of a transparent and compellable debt restructuring that involves all creditor countries.
Confident that Sri Lanka will recover soon.
Bring itself back on track for further economic development, serving as a hub in this Indian Ocean.
Export targets. Government to expect over $3 billion as income from plantation exports, reveals the plantation minister.
Our prediction for 2023 is $3.5 billion.
Integration. Chief negotiator of FTA says Sri Lanka waits for response from RCEP to join the partnership.
We are waiting for a response formally. The joint committee of RCEP will be meeting in August and we are expecting some proper decision.
Government to sign SL Thai FTA early next year.
It will be ready for signature in the first quarter of next year. A specialized economic zone for Thailand to be given in Sri Lanka Industrial Park, special zone for exclusively for
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරම.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana First at 9. I'm AdaDerana Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, French President Emmanuel Macron made history yesterday, becoming the first French president to visit the island nation of Sri Lanka. During discussions with Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe, President Macron reaffirmed France's willingness and commitment to supporting Sri Lanka in its economic recovery, while also pledging assistance in Sri Lanka's debt restructuring process. Further discussions between the two leaders focused on strengthening cooperations in various sectors, including politics, economics, tourism, climate change, sustainable development and maritime activities. Following his trip to the South Pacific region, French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Sri Lanka late yesterday. Although the visit was brief, it was momentous as President Emmanuel Macron became the first ever president of France to visit Sri Lanka. Upon his arrival, President Emmanuel Macron was welcomed by Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri at the Bandaranaike International Airport in Katunaika. Subsequently, President Emmanuel Macron held productive bilateral discussions with Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe at the airport premises.
So much. Thank you again for your presence in Paris.
Thank you so much for my wife was delighted to yes.
Chief of Staff and SLT very my secretary Kamal.
The discussions between the two leaders focused on strengthening cooperation in various sectors, including politics, economics, tourism, climate change, sustainable development and maritime activities. Discussions were also held on the establishment of a school for maritime safety and security, the opening of a permanent office for the French Agency for Development in Sri Lanka, the initiation of high-level diplomatic dialogues, cooperation in the education sector, and the enhancement of efforts to combat human trafficking in the maritime safety and security sector. During the discussion, President Wickremesinghe expressed admiration for France's significant role in global affairs, particularly in areas such as climate change mitigation, global debt restructuring, and matters related to the Indo-Pacific region. While reaffirming France's willingness and commitment to supporting Sri Lanka in its economic recovery, French President Emmanuel Macron pledged France's assistance in the debt restructuring process, aiming for a positive outcome for the country. While reaffirming France's willingness and commitment to supporting Sri Lanka in its economic recovery, French President Emmanuel Macron pledged France's assistance in the debt restructuring process, aiming for a positive outcome for the country. Praising President Macron's timely initiative in organizing a global leaders summit for a new global financing pact held in Paris last month, President Ranil Wickremesinghe conveyed Sri Lanka's agreement to join the Paris agenda for the people and the planet, emphasizing the country's commitment to global efforts for a sustainable future. Concluding his brief visit, the French president left Sri Lanka during the early hours today. Meanwhile, in a Twitter post, President Macron stated it was confirmed during his visit to Sri Lanka that both Sri Lanka and France share the same goal, which is an open, inclusive and prosperous Indo-Pacific. Now, in another high-level visit, Japanese Minister of Foreign Affairs Yoshimasa Hayashi expressed support of his government to expedite the debt restructuring process of Sri Lanka and ensure a swift economic recovery. Addressing the media today, the Japanese Foreign Minister welcomed Sri Lanka's reform efforts, such as incorporating transparency into the policy-making process. During his two-day visit, the Japanese Foreign Minister called on President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Their discussions focused on key projects including the light rail transit and the development of the East Container Terminal of the Colombo port. Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi arrived in Sri Lanka last night for a two-day official visit. Following his arrival at the Bandaranaike International Airport, he was welcomed by State Minister of Foreign Affairs Taraka Balasurya. This morning, the Japanese Foreign Minister called on President Ranil Wickremesinghe in Colombo. Discussions between the President and the Japanese Foreign Minister focused on key areas of cooperation, including the light rail transit, the East Terminal of the Colombo port, the Kandy Development Plan, the Central Highway, and the expansion of the Bandaranaike International Airport. Both parties expressed the importance of expediting the implementation of these projects. Additionally, they held discussions on bilateral, regional and global issues, emphasizing their shared commitment to maintaining the region as a peaceful and stable area. President Wickremesinghe also highlighted the investment opportunities in Sri Lanka's high-tech industries, envisioning a transformation from a labour market-oriented economy to one that caters to cutting-edge technological advancements.
I have to thank you for being here such a short time after my visit to Japan. It shows the importance we have of further strengthening our relations.
Following his meeting with the President, Japanese Foreign Minister Hayashi called on his Sri Lankan counterpart, President's Counsel Ali Sabri. Subsequent to the bilateral discussions, both foreign ministers addressed the media.
Japan is a trusted partner, and with clear indicators of Sri Lanka's gradual economic recovery, both the President and I invited Japan to resume the Japanese investment project which are currently in the pipeline, and invited fresh investment from Japan in several sectors such as power, infrastructure, including port and highways sectors, dedicated investment zones, as well as the green and digital economy. The Sri Lankan side also outlined to the Japanese delegation the highest priority that Sri Lanka is placing on economic recovery and sustainable growth, including adequate support measures for the vulnerable segment of our society. I also briefed Minister on the recent measures to enhance national reconciliation and unity for all segments of our people in all parts of the country, including the recent proposal put forward by the President on the power sharing under 13th Amendment. Japan has encouraged Sri Lanka in our efforts, including the new TRC mechanism. Our cordial relationship have deepened in the areas of people-to-people links. This includes opening in new sectors where Sri Lanka can be source of skilled manpower requirement of the Japanese economy, while strengthening existing tourism and educational cooperation. We are confident that Sri Lanka's economic recovery, which has made a promising start, and the future growth prospect provide us with greater opportunity to enhance the Japan-Sri Lanka relationship in all aspects.
Sri Lanka is located at a strategic juncture along the sea lanes of Indian Ocean and is an important partner in realizing a free and open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP. At today's meeting, I explained about the new plan for the FOIP that Prime Minister Kishida announced in March this year, and stated that Japan attaches importance to cooperation with the Indian Ocean Rim Association, or IOLA, which Sri Lanka will chair from October. So I conveyed my expectation for further progress in the debt restructuring process and stressed the importance of a transparent and comparable debt restructuring that involves all creditor countries. I welcome Sri Lanka's effort under the IMF agreement, including its anti-corruption measures and transparency in the policy-making process. Concerning Sri Lanka's efforts on national reconciliation, I express Japan's intention to support Sri Lanka's effort. It's the hope of Japan and myself that Sri Lanka will overcome the current crisis as soon as possible and bring itself back on track for further economic development, serving as a hub in this Indian Ocean.
The Japanese Foreign Minister also met with Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at the Temple Trees. During his visit, Japan and Sri Lanka signed an agreement for a human resource development scholarship project to train young Sri Lankan executive officers serving in the public sector. The MOU, which was signed by Japanese ambassador in Colombo Mizukoshi Hideaki and Treasury Secretary Mahinda Siriwardena, provides a Japanese grant of 611 million rupees for the project. The Prime Minister said the high-level visit from Japan to Sri Lanka was important in order to explore potential projects on ports, airports, railways, renewable energy, maritime cooperation and mutual efforts to heighten private sector tie-ups. Meanwhile, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi also called on the opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. While requesting the Japanese Foreign Minister for continued support to Sri Lanka, the opposition leader requested Japan's investments towards the betterment of the country's fisheries sector and the expansion of the information and communication technology. Meanwhile, the government requests Asvasuma beneficiaries to open bank accounts to ensure direct cash transfers without delays. In a tweet, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe said while the appeals and objection process is underway, the district secretaries and the divisional secretaries will assist in expediting the bank account opening process. Earlier today, the minister said the current welfare benefit payments for the low-income senior citizens, kidney patients and the disabled will remain unchanged until the new system is developed. Meanwhile, the leader of the National People's Power, Anurukumara Dissanayake, says that the NPP firmly stands with the oppressed and will take to the streets to fight for their rights. However, parliamentarian of the SLPP, Gamini Lokuge, says that the NPP should be held responsible for the present state of the country's economy. Meanwhile, Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Ruwan Wijewardena, claims that his party will contest in the next presidential election via an alliance of parties.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ දන්නවා තමන්ගේ මේ ප්‍රෝඩාකාරී ආර්ථික සැලැස්මට විරුද්ධව පීඩාවට පත්වන ජනතාව නැගී සිටින බව. ජාතික ජනබලවේගය අපි තාමත් ස්ථිර තැනක ඉන්නවා. මේ රටේ පීඩාවට පත්වන ජනතාවගේ අයිතීන් දිනා ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් අපි ඔවුන් සමග එක්ව සටන් කරන්න, ඔවුන් සමග එක්ව පාරට බහින්න ලෑස්ති.
පහුගිය කම්කරු දිනේ සමරද්දී ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදු ජන පෙරමුණ නායකත්වයේ දෙන ඉදිරි දශක දෙක මේ රට දුවන රාජ්‍ය නායකයා වේදිකාවට කැඳවාගෙන ආවා. අපේ ආණ්ඩුව අපි පිහිටවනවා. UNP කාර්යෝ 3-4 දිනක් එකට එකතු වෙලා අන්න දැන් කියනවා අපි සේරම ප්‍රශ්න විසඳුවයි කියලා.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඊළඟ ජනාධිපතිවරණයේ ජයග්‍රහණය වෙනුවෙන් පක්ෂ ගණනාවක් එකතු වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම විපක්ෂයේ മന്ത്രി කණ්ඩායමක්ම ජනාධිපතිතුමාට සහයෝගය ලබා දෙන්නට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඉතින් බොහෝ දුරට ඊළඟ ජනාධිපතිවරණයේදී අපි සන්ධානයක් හැටියට තමයි මැතිවරණයට මුහුණ දෙන්නේ. ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයෙන් විපක්ෂයෙන් දෙකෙන්ම මම හිතන්නේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ ජයග්‍රහණය වෙනුවෙන් කැප වෙලා වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න කණ්ඩායමක් වෙන්න.
දැනට දේශපාලන බලය දරන අය මේ දේශපාලනය වෙනස් කරන්න කැමති නැහැ. එහෙනම් මොකද කරන්නේ? පාරට එන්නම වෙනවා. කොටිම කිව්ව මෙහෙමයි. වැඩ නතර කරන්න ඕන. රට නතර කරන්න ඕන.
මාලිමාම වගේ කියන්න ඕනේ මේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය මේ තත්ත්වයටපත් වෙන්න. මොකද කීප අවස්ථාවක ඒගොල්ලෝ කරපු කටයුතු හින්දා මේ රටේ ආර්ථික විශාල බාධාවක් වුණා. 70 කැරැල්ලෙන් අපේ තරුණ ජීවිත 60000ක් විතර නැති වුණා. 89 දී මේ රටේ බස් කිලි තිබ්බා. තේ ෆැක්ටරි ගිනි තිබ්බා. විවිධ ඒවා අලාභ කරා. ඒවා විශාල අලාභ ඇති වුණා. එක වැරද්දක් අපි ආණ්ඩු දෙකම කරා. ඒවා විලුණු කොමිෂන් සභාවක් හොයලා දඬුවම් දුන්නේ නැහැ.
Now, Dr. Ramesh Patrana says that coconut exports will be the best performing plantation export, overtaking both rubber and cinnamon. More news after this short commercial break. Stay with us.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන් කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින් වැඩම ගොඩයි ගොඩම තමයි ස්වරාජ් ට්‍රැක්ටර් ටීමෝ වෙතින් අපේ ගෙදරත් ආපිකෝ මෙට්‍රස් තමයි මාදිලි රසකින් යුත් මෙට්ටලුවේ ප්‍රමුඛයා ආපිකෝ මෙට්‍රස් සැප නින්දට සැප මෙට්ට
Now to welcome you back with some local business news, the Minister of Industries, Dr. Ramesh Patirana, emphasized that an income of $3.5 billion is forecast from the coconut sector in 2023. Speaking at an event, the minister said that the coconut exports will be the best performing plantation export in a decade's time, overtaking both rubber and cinnamon.
Sri Lankan plantation sector performed reasonably well in 2021. Our prediction for 2023 is $3.5 billion. There is a general tendency. There is a reduction of orders in all the sectors, starting from apparel and plantation sectors and other exports, partly because of the fact that America and Europe go through a recession. But despite those challenges, I'm hopeful the Sri Lankan planters and also the exporters are doing their best to ensure that we gain more from these exports. In relation to coconut sector, the government also have few plans. With the mediation of the growers, we enlisted coconut as a plant should be something safeguarded. In that connection, we included coconut in the Tree Felling Act and also the land demarcations, and also we have reduced the fragmentation of coconut lands in the country to a bare minimum level. And also we have plans to declare another coconut triangle in the northern province of the country, connecting Jaffna and also Mana and Pulmude. We will start that project in September this year with the availability of the good planting material that we have developed during last year, numbering up to 6 million good planting material. We should be able to develop very good, reasonable coconut cultivation in northern part of the country. We are hopeful 1 decade down the line, coconut would overtake both rubber and cinnamon. Possibly by 2035, we will surely gain an export income of about 2 billion from the coconut sector. So that's our wish, and to make that wish a success, we need support from the growers and also the processors and also the exporters to ensure that the coconut sector gain nothing but best in the country.
Meanwhile, in other local business news, President's chief negotiator for free trade agreements, KJ Veerasinghe, said the government is awaiting a response to the letter of intent the government has forwarded to the RCEP's office in Indonesia to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Speaking at an event in Colombo, Veerasinghe said Sri Lanka is expecting to sign the Sri Lanka-Thailand free trade agreement during the first quarter of next year.
An event themed China Open for Business, What's Next for Sri Lanka, organised by the Sri Lanka-China Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, was held in Colombo.
When you have changes to the policy all the time, then it's not investor-friendly environment. So consistency will be one of the main issues. There is a committee that has been appointed for the drafting of a new investment law, which would create an investor-friendly environment in the country, which would grant easy approvals. In another way, it would be a one-stop shop. And also, there will be a special investment law which will link up into all the other acts and the other regulations, which will make investment faster and will fast-track the approvals. And also, there will be a high-powered committee appointed by the President, consisting of 7 senior ministry secretaries. Their duty is to come up with new suggestions as to what policy changes should have to be made to attract investment.
We have a problem of integrating with the world. I heard the President talking about joining the RCEP. To join RCEP is not easy. You have to relax so many regulations that we have imposed on investment and trade. We are no longer going to be in an easy phase with tailwind. It's headwind. So we have to be really, really innovative in how we attack this challenge. So in my view, if we all think, look, the only way out for this country is to become partners in a club, in a way, right? Become members of global production networks, etc., and bring down these barriers to, like what the minister was saying about industrial and trade policy, and have a consistent game plan. Then I think we can think about strengthening the business relationship between our two countries.
We need to protect the major 2 markets, that's the US and the EU, which are the key markets for Sri Lanka. We need to promote those 2 markets. We are negotiating with Thailand, which we have had 5 rounds of negotiations, and the 6th round will be held in August. And we plan to conclude that agreement by December this year, and it will be ready for signature in the first quarter of next year. Our objective is to join RCEP. We have already sent a letter of intent to the RCEP Secretariat informing that of Sri Lanka's intent to join RCEP. So we are waiting for a response formally, and the Joint Committee of RCEP We'll be meeting in August and we are expecting some form of a decision. In the Thai negotiations, we have investment chapter there. Of course, we have proposed a specialized economic zone for Thailand to be given in Sri Lanka Industrial Park, special zone for exclusively for Thai investment. I think a similar zone can be also offered to China. Of course, the port city is coming, but then of course there's a possibility exclusive zone for Chinese investment. It's possible that I think we propose to do.
So I really wish that Sri Lanka can make full use of its own locations, make full use of its human resources to really develop its own manufacturing, or especially what I call it processing industry or assembly industry, because you are a lack in the production chain. So it would be very difficult for you to start everything here. You can't have everything. So to speed up the industrialization or to multipleize export products, better to start with something that would be easy to start with. And also for the processing industry to export to ASEAN, to South Asia, even to East Africa, to make full use of its own location for the international transportation by air, by water.
Now in your local sports news, the Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs has suspended the registration of the Sri Lanka Karate Do Federation, issuing a special gazette. As such, the registration of the National Association for the Sport of Karate was suspended with immediate effect. Meanwhile, interim arrangements are underway to appoint a 9-member committee as a temporary operational procedure to further maintain functions of the Sri Lanka Karate Do Federation. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of AdaDerana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.adaderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.